Something weird just happened.
We're trying it again.
We had a technical difficulty, but we're back.
Hi.
Hi, everybody. It's in your face. I'm Perry.
And I'm Remy.
And tonight, just like last week, we're going to be addressing the men because 2/3 of our audience is trans-attracted men and trans-amorous men. And because...
wait a minute. I turned that off.
That's okay. And
turned it off.
And we're also going to be... We're still going to be talking to trans women.
Hi, baby.
Hey, Jonathan. We're also going to be talking with trans women, but predominantly we're going to be talking to men because they seem to be our massive audience. But as Remy loves to say, the content that we talk about here, even though we're focusing on men, it is just as appropriate to...
Everyone.
Everyone.
Every single person. If you're watching this message does and can apply to you. Just listen past some of the words because we do have some specific folks we're trying to talk to here.
Very good.
So listen up, fellas.
So we're going to start with...
Clean them out.
We're going to...
Hi, Tamar.
Hey, Tamar. Welcome. So we're going to start with How to Read the News, our new ongoing segment.
Open
Because...
With a smile.
Because I think some people just... They read the news, but they don't pay attention to how they're interpreting what they're reading. And oftentimes they're acting on automatic pilot. And so...
Well, and often I think maybe... they're reacting based on how the interpretation is being presented to them.
Ooh, good
right?
going.
Where people choose to get their news, because each paper is written a little differently with a different agenda.
Well said.
You know, so where you choose to find your news is going to already be
slanted
towards the author's point of view and the paper's point of view, and so.
And so this is why, but what's interesting is what Remy's saying is 100% accurate, but what's interesting is you can choose from within the thing you're reading the elements to focus on, and you can choose to create stories about what you're reading that are not consistent with what the people are trying to get you to.
Doesn't matter who wrote the story.
That's correct.
Is the point. You can read anybody's news, even if they're completely opposite of their right and your left and blah, 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 up and down and whatever. You can still look past it.
Speaking of the right, we're going to present an article. So some of the articles, we need to run this disclaimer every time we do this now. Some of this articles are triggering. Sensitive, yes. So if you are sensitive to certain words or certain ways of presenting transgender issues, you might not want to look at the article until you've listened to several segments of this portion of the show so that you can learn how to read the news in an empowering way. Okay.
Hello, Jimmy. Welcome. Thank you.
Hey, Jimmy. Welcome. So let me open up. I'm just going to open up the show so that I can. By the way, we're like we said last week. We're posting every article that we're talking about in the chat window of the show instead of on the Facebook page, so that so that only the people who are watching know what we're talking about. So that people who aren't watching don't click on it and get turned off about all of us because of one article.
Right, because they got all uppity and jumpity.
Exactly. So the first article I'm posting now, the first article is actually coming from the LGBTQ Nation article, newspaper I should say, or online publication. And they are claiming, let me just open this up here. This is really interesting because they're claiming that there's this Republican ad that's running that is disgraceful to virtually everybody who's featured in it.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially, what the video. So this Republican electoral politician is running for office, obviously against this Democrat, and his platform created a video of people who supposedly voted for his competitor.
Mm-hmm.
And the people that he is portraying in his video,
he's hired actors.
They're not
play.
That's right.
Characters that would have voted for this other person, immigrants, people of the LGBT community, and
the Antifa,
and the such.
Yeah, and the such. And I don't think so. So one of the ways to look at this is, well, first of all, I don't think these are real people. Like the transgender person, I think is an actor that they just put in clothing. Do you think it's a trans person who's actually acting?
I don't know. I don't feel that it is.
I don't feel it is either.
You know, and this person that's supposed to be an illegal immigrant
Oh, he's
like a white boy.
Yeah, he's an Antifa. He's supposed to be
okay.
one of those left-wing protesters.
Okay.
Yeah. And then they have a black teacher who's in there who could be a teacher, but I think she's an actor too. And then there's another person in there that's referred to a feminist. Yes, a feminist.
Young feminist.
A young feminist. So this article, now mind you, this article is in LGBTQ nations.
Hey, Bella.
So they're taking to task this Republican politician's video and claiming that it offends everyone. I personally, so when I looked at this article, first of all, let's look at the headline. It says, "This Republican ad is absurdly hateful against everyone."
That's an opinion.
It is an opinion, Remy, because when I looked at it, it was kind of funny to me. It was so low budget and so janky. I mean, it didn't occur as hurtful or hateful or anything. It just presented these caricatures of the left voting for this Democrat as a way to show the right that this is a Democrat. This Democratic politician is someone you're not going to want to have in office because here are the people that
these are the people who associate.
That's
with
right,
him.
and none of it is surprising, right? So of course, for a Democratic politician, you're going to have a teacher.
And it's a she who wrote this, or who's running for...
Thank you. Yes. Oh, yeah, so it's a woman Republican. Interesting. So you're going to have a teacher, most likely. You're going to have someone who protests on the left. You're going to have a transgender person. You're going to have an illegal immigrant voting for Democrats. Why? Because those are the people who are supporting those people's wishes in politics. That should be no surprise to anyone. So let me ask, why is it, do you think, so this is what you want to think about when you read these things. Number one, why is it, do you think, that LGBTQ Nation is taking such an extreme perspective on what seems like a relatively innocuous presentation of these stereotypical people? Mm-hmm. Why are they taking such an obscene view? Well, first of all, if you look at the headline is clickbait. If you're on the left, or if you're trans or you're LGBTQ, you're going to want to, even though it's negative, you're going to want to click on that and find out what this video is about.
Who are they hateful against?
Exactly.
Like we don't already know.
Exactly. And they're not just hateful, they're absurdly hateful.
Right.
So you're going to...
Absurdly hateful.
Yes. So you're going to click on there and look at this article. Well, as we said last week, when you click on this article, that counts towards the advertising department of LGBTQ Nation to be able to say to their potential advertisers...
Just trying to portray him as insufficiently conservative.
Yeah. Yeah. And so it's interesting because you are participating in the advertising machine of LGBTQ Nation. Now, some people will say that's not such a big deal. LGBTQ Nation is an organization that's worth funding, and they should use your clicks to go out to advertisers and get more advertisers. But you just want to know that, in a sense, you're being used because, like I said, this article is not all that.
No, it's not. But, someone might read this and use it based on how they're reading the news and what they're looking for out there. You get what you look for. This could be fuel. Here we go. One more Republican, the more horrible thing that they're doing.
That's right.
One more C, they're always against us.
That's a really good point.
You can see it in that way.
Yes.
Or
you could also look at, for example, for trans women, you could look at this person who's portraying a trans woman. And again, we don't know whether this is a real trans woman or not. But you could say that, okay, this politician is exploiting trans people in this advertisement, and I'm all pissed off about it. This is what people do in the same way that LGBTQ Nation is using this inflammatory headline to get you to come to this website. This politician is using this video to get you to come to the polls and vote against his competitor. And so it's interesting because the article and the video, are doing the same thing. Mm-hmm. They're flaming your knee-jerk reaction so that you will come and do what the people who are behind the two things, so you'll come and do what they want you to do.
Right.
In other words,
They got mind control over Debo.
yeah, I was gonna say. In other words, you're being manipulated. Okay, let's go to the next one. I think let's do this. Okay, actually, we're gonna do that one last because it's a really negative one. All right, so this next article, which I will paste in the window now. Do we have any comments? Should we address some comments while I'm doing this?
What do we have here? Bella joined us. You did make it. Thanks. Hi, girl. Jonathan said, Perry said janky, LOL. Jimmy Tiller says, seems like all sides try to out extreme each other.
It's true. It's interesting because we've gotten so numb to extreme language that everyone is using now even more extreme language in the attempt to try and catch your attention.
Jonathan says, yes, and everyone loves to try and incite negativity because it sells.
That's exactly right, Jonathan. So let's look at this next article. This next article, which I am pasting now is about Donald Trump refusing to sign a statement supporting marriage equality and transgender rights. So this
again, another big surprise.
Exactly. It's not a surprise at all.
Well, yes.
That the Trump administration would not sign marriage equality and transgender rights certification. But I will say that yes, I will say that this headline is much less inflammatory than the previous one because they're just stating the facts.
Right.
Right. And maybe they don't have to because anywhere you see Donald Trump, I think we all have an expectation that there's going to be something negative about it. Right. So,
unless, of course, you're reading
Fox News or something like that. Right, right. But in this article, it's really interesting because in this article, they talk about all the countries. So what happened was there is a Inter-American Court of Human Rights that found Costa Rica in violation of its treaty obligations under the American Convention on Human Rights for LGBT people. And the conventions ordered, I'm surprised it ordered, but anyway, it ordered 16 nations in the region to make same-sex marriage legal. And Costa Rica did not do that. And so the nations inside of this organization voted to sanction Costa Rica. And the only country that did not do that was the United States. But what's interesting is, and I found this fascinating, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 of the countries in this organization signed this statement. Mm-hmm. And
such an amazing thing that 7 did sign.
It is. And my understanding, and I could be wrong here, you guys, but my understanding of Latin American countries is, except for a few, they're not very supportive of transgender people.
They're not. No, LGBTQ is not
correct
in all parts.
Correct. And yet we have Argentina, Brazil, Chile, Colombia, Mexico, and Uruguay. All of those countries signed this document and have agreed to make same-sex marriage legal in their countries.
And Canada.
Canada, I didn't mention Canada because they're not in Latin America.
Right, but still.
Yeah, but still. But it's interesting that all of these, this article is talking about how Trump has done this negative thing, but in the article, they're talking about these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 countries that agreed to do it. 7 countries, you guys.
Trump's refusal is all that more glaring, given Chile, which currently does not have marriage equality, supported the measure.
Yes.
He's just such a great guy.
Yes, it's so interesting. And so you can read this article and focus on how Trump is a bad guy, or you can read this article and pick out the good news, which is, first of all, there's a court of human rights that are international court of human rights that are arguing to make same-sex marriage legal.
LGBTQ rights legal.
That's exactly
in all
right.
of these countries.
Yes.
That's so amazing.
That is amazing.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know it either. And there's 7 countries that are agreeing with this organization. I didn't know that either. It was just...
So far.
So that's exactly right, Remy, so far.
Some will sign up just to despite him to show you.
Exactly. And so when you're reading news, it's important from our perspective that you're paying attention to the positive aspects of the news that you're reading rather than letting the negative aspects of the news that you're reading dictate your mood, because your mood is everything, guys, and we're going to be talking about that later in the show. Okay, let's see if there's any comments while I pull up the next one.
Next? Tamar says, nothing new there. I wouldn't waste my time clicking on it.
Very good. That is excellent. Of course, that's
You're not here.
That's the default. The default is don't read negative news at all, because which is
the best way to go.
Exactly, it's the best way to go if you can do that. But if you must read those articles, then read them with your own slant rather than absorbing the slant of the organizations that are writing them.
Use your eyes, not theirs.
Yeah. So let's take one more. Let's take this really negative one. So trigger warning, you guys. This article talks about the most recent brutal murder of a transgender woman, and it's published by Pink News out of the United Kingdom. So apparently, in Buffalo, New York, a woman named Tanya Harvey, who's 35 years old, was shot dead on a street in New York. And she happens to be, is it the fourth or the third? I think it's the third killing of a transgender person this year, following something like 26 last year, I think it was. Something like that?
27,
27, yeah. Yeah. And this is a hard one even for me to think positively about. I need a tissue to blow my nose. I'm going to blow my nose on air. So what positive aspects can we take from this article? Well, we can say that this person, what was her name? Tanya Harvey, has given her life in support of the transgender movement, the transgender community. She's given the utmost sacrifice in the same way that an American soldier, for example, might give their life in combat for defending the United States. In a sense, she has given herself, all of herself,
yes,
at least her present in physical reality self, in support of changing the what's happening in America around transgender people. And all of the people who have been murdered who are trans have done this too. And the more of these kind of murders that occur, the more people will begin to stand up and pay attention. And we're already seeing that. And so each murder...
until the point where these murders stop.
Exactly.
Happening.
Exactly. And in the same way, so back in the day, it was black people that were being murdered willy-nilly. Hung from trees, dragged behind cars, shot in the middle of the night, or what have you. And the same thing is happening here. And back then, when all the black people were being murdered, eventually people started to say enough is enough.
Right.
And in the same way, the same thing is going to happen here. But it can't happen in our physical reality until there's enough of a tipping point where we see just so many transgender people being murdered that society cries enough is enough. And we're already beginning to see that because the Justice Department has designated the many transgender murders as hate crimes.
Yes.
Which was the same step that the civil rights movement took when all these black people were being killed, where black murders of black people were then decreed as hate crimes, and the sentences passed down for those crimes were much more severe than what they were before.
Right, it's calling them what they really are.
Exactly. Before, when white people were murdering black people, it was just a slap on the hand because the juries were all white and, the judges didn't really care that much. And today, we're seeing a much different story recently as transgender women are murdered because the judges are slapping down much harder sentences and the juries aren't taking it either.
And the old excuses that they could get away with things aren't being used anymore.
That's exactly
or being
right.
accepted anymore.
What was that one? The panic defense has been turned down in quite a few states now. That's actually a good development. So here's, this is going to sound strange, but bear with me. If all of these transgender people had not been murdered, we would not see the panic defense being turned down. Do you see that? That's logical if you think about it. It's not necessarily, it's too bad that so many transgender people had to be murdered for that to happen, but if they weren't murdered, we wouldn't see that be turned down. If all these transgender people weren't being murdered, we also wouldn't have seen these murders be eligible to be classified as hate crimes.
Right.
And so, and it's interesting because you could reach all the way back to Donald Trump and say that if Donald Trump had not become president, the amplification of transgender murders would not have existed, which would not have allowed the hate crime designation to be placed on all of these murders. So there's this unbroken connection between all the things that we think are negative in society going on right now, creating the reality that we're eventually going to move into when transgender people are fully accepted for the most part, and trans-attracted men are out dating these people in public more so than what we're seeing today.
Right, and giving public support.
Exactly.
Yeah. Let's see. Jimmy says, when I see the articles about the murders, the worst thing you can do is read the comments. That's so true. That is so true. You cannot go into reading the comments. If you're going to read the article for the news, get the news as best you can get news from the news. But yeah, absolutely, don't read comments because you're just going to incite all of your own emotions over someone else's ignorance and stupidity.
Absolutely.
It's so worthless.
It's so worthless.
Pick your battles in life.
Yeah. And it's interesting, too, about the comments. Is there another comment?
Tamara says, stay away from the comments, Jimmy. There are always horrible ones there by people who are behind the times.
That's exactly right.
Just move on.
Yep, just move. Oh, that's what JMO means. Good job, Tamar. Yeah, and you're not going to change those people's minds. Many of those people in the comment sections are just throwing up some of the worst possible comments in order to get a reaction from people.
Right.
Yeah.
Reactionary.
Reactionary trolls, they call them.
Is that what they call them?
Yeah.
Such a thing.
It is, right?
Oh my God, it's such a perfect name.
It is a perfect name. Just hanging out in the comments section, trying to get your goat. And then you get your heart rate all up and you get all stressed out.
Get your pressure rolls
exactly.
And stressed out and angry, and then you making comments and
which forms your inside of you a connection to you going back in there and having another conversation. Have you noticed, Jimmy, that if you begin engaging
that old story, it still continues to feed that old nasty story.
Have you noticed that if you engage in those conversations, Jimmy, there's kind of like this momentum that develops where it's hard to pull yourself out of those comments because you get so twisted into them, you're like kind of stuck. I know when I used to read those comments, I would be out there actually trying to change people's minds, trying to be logical. And these people aren't logical. They're not trying to be logical. They're trying to get your goat. And so it's very easy to get caught up in that. And then the next thing you know, you spent an hour trying to change someone's mind whose mind is not going to be changed. Jimmy says, oh, I do not engage them. It's pointless. Yeah,
we have a comment before that by Miss Catalina. There's a lot of talk, but no action on what can be done to prevent these killings.
Yeah, who was that? What was her name?
Miss Catalina?
Miss Catalina. Yeah, we have an idea here at the Trans Amorous Network, but we so far have kind of stalled on getting funding for that effort. Anyway, we
have plans to help address that.
We do have plans to help address that. Okay, so let's see. Okay. I just want to add one more negative story. This negative story is a trip. So I just posted it in the comments section for you guys to take a look at. This article, so the Federalist, I would be surprised if anyone watching this show knows what the Federalist is. I know what the Federalist is because I have a news alert that comes to my inbox of any article that has the word transgender in it. The Federalist is an ultra right-wing conservative online newspaper. And I have not seen such crazy spin in my entire life before. The ACLU sued at Alabama because I think Alabama requires transgender people to have the sex that they were assigned at birth on their driver's license. So even if they want to have it match who they know themselves to be, they have to get SRS or GCS. And so the American Civil Liberties Union is suing the state of Alabama to get that changed so that you don't have to have SRS and GCS in order to have your driver's license changed. So if you're a male to female, for example, your license can say she or female without necessarily having to have the bottom surgery. So this I'm not going to blame Margot, the writer of the article. I'm going to blame her organization because she's writing on behalf of her organization. They twist this. It's even hard to read the way they wrote this article because they.
So then you got to give her a little bit of blame.
I guess you do because she put a lot of effort into spinning this thing. It's like, so I'll just read the first paragraph. On Tuesday, American Civil Liberties Union sued Alabama state officials in a federal district court. Can you let the dog out, please? On behalf of three transgender individuals. The plaintiffs all suffer from gender dysphoria. Darcy Corbett and Destiny Clark are men, but want to obtain Alabama driver's license that will describe them as female. John Doe is female, but seeks to change her driver's license to one identifying her as male. So if you notice that paragraph, Margot has not made any effort whatsoever to recognize these people as transgender people using the pronouns that should be used to identify them as the people that they are. In fact, she does the exact opposite. And even, are you reading that?
Yeah. So I haven't pre-read these articles today. Sorry, folks.
It's okay. And even when this article quotes the American Civil Liberties Union document that they submitted to the courts, they twist the language to ensure that they are not supporting the language that is gender affirming relative to the transgender people. So, for example, I'm just going to scroll down to the bottom here. So, for example, in this one quote in the middle of the article, where they've taken a section out of the legal document, they use this paragraph, this parenthetical phrase SIC, which means stated in context, which means this is an error. So journalists use the phrase stated in context to denote that the quote that they're quoting from has an error in it, but it was not our error. So
we're quoting what they said, so yes. We haven't misquoted.
Exactly. Yes.
However,
yes,
what they said was wrong.
Yes. So the court document.
Something else, isn't it?
It's crazy. So the court document from the American Civil Liberties Union is honoring the plaintiffs by calling them by their appropriate gender.
Miss Clark.
Thank you, Miss Clark or
Mr. Doe.
Mr. Doe. But when the Civil Liberties Union does that, this writer puts stated in context next to the moniker, the miss or the Mr. to indicate that this is an error. It's just so interesting. And so, but if you think about the people who read this. So the people who read this online newspaper are arch conservatives of the right wing. Mm-hmm. And they believe that trans people, not everyone, not all conservatives believe this. Some conservatives believe that let's take trans females, for example, that trans females are not females, that they're men. And so it would offend the readership of this organization to refer to these people as female when their readers believe that these people are men.
Right.
So the headline is really inflammatory, but it's confusing because the headline says the ACLU argues all American speech must be curbed to make transgender people comfortable.
Right. This is happening in Alabama. It's Alabama.
And not only is it Alabama.
It's Alabama.
Yeah, but it's not even, the suit isn't even saying that. What the suit is saying is, Alabama, you have to allow people who want to change their driver's license to align that to who they feel themselves to be, who they know themselves to be, so that they don't have to get gender confirmation surgery in order to get a license that says they're female if they feel they're female.
Right.
That's what they're suing for. They're not saying that all American people can't say what they can say.
Must be curbed to make transgender people comfortable.
Yes.
If we only could.
So it's just very interesting.
How hard that would be?
It would be impossible.
It would be impossible.
Not only would it be impossible, it would be against the Constitution of the United States.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello.
So, and this is part of the agenda of the conservative right, is to inflame people's belief that the Constitution is being trampled upon, when in fact, what in this case...
So other than a joke, how do we see this as... How do we read this positively?
Oh, that's a good question. One way...
Because I see it as a joke.
Yeah, it is a joke. One way is to laugh. To laugh at how hard this organization is trying to skew the truth. Another way is to look at it critically. Is it really possible that the ACLU would try through the law to curb everybody's free speech? The ACLU has never tried to curb people's free speech. In fact, the ACLU recently was defending white supremacists in court to allow them to keep expressing their freedom of speech. And so it's just so that you have to have some background in the subject matter in order to read these things and understand that a lot of times what you're reading is not accurate. Okay, let's move on to the good news.
You mean the news isn't accurate?
Right? The news is not always accurate. The news is not always accurate. And oftentimes...
It's never going to be 100% because it's always going to be written from someone's perspective.
Oftentimes, the news is not even worth reading because it has no impact on you.
Hello.
Okay, so we're moving on to the positive news. Now, there's so much
stuff.
There's so much good stuff happening.
Stuff.
We can't get it all in here because it would just take too long. But this first one that I'm posting is pretty awesome. So this is a survey that was done in, what was the city? The state?
Minnesota.
Minnesota did, a university in Minnesota did a survey, and they discovered that 3% of the population in Minnesota, the young people in Minnesota, are beginning to identify... High schoolers, thank you. Are beginning to identify themselves as something other than the binary.
Yes.
It was 0.7% before.
Just like a year or two ago.
Yes.
They did the survey, and and now 3% of all 9th through 11th graders in Minnesota
are identifying themselves
in a non-binary way.
Yes.
Gender fluid, gender queer, transgender.
Now, what does this mean? This can be extrapolated to say that there must be at least that many people across the country. I mean, Minnesota isn't necessarily known as the most left-wing state in the nation.
Nor is it the most right-wing either.
Right. And so you can imagine that in California, that number is probably going to skew higher. Mm-hmm. In New York, it's probably going to skew higher.
It's also more populated in other places.
Very good.
Too.
It is.
This is not even a highly populated place, but if you just think of per capita wise what 3% would mean.
In California, for example. Right. Yeah. I don't even know how
that's 3 kids in every 100.
That's
100.
Right. That's right. I mean? Yeah. So a lot of people are coming to the world. Now, these are young people. What grade? High school?
9th, 10th, and 11th
9th, 10th, and 11th.
Freshmen, sophomore, juniors.
So a lot of people are coming into the world identifying outside of this gender binary. And, you know, when you think about this, it means that all of society is going to change as more people come into the world expressing this, which means it is a done deal that the gender binary is a done deal. I mean, there's just going to be too many people outside of the gendered binary operating in that space.
Well, there will no longer be a binary.
That's right. And
so there will be the spectrum that is humanity.
Yes, exactly. And so humanity is getting closer and closer. Humanity is getting closer and closer to expressing itself as it actually is. And the young people are leading it. And as more young people lead it, more old people are beginning to find themselves...
Catch the fuck up.
Yes. Comfortable enough to come out. As a matter of fact, the next article I'm going to post is an article about a principal who I think is in her 50s who decided to finally come out as a transgender female.
Yay, Principal What's Her Bucket.
And this is interesting because... let's put that in here so that we can see it.
That'd be helpful.
This is interesting because there was recently a flap about 2 other principals who came out as transgender.
Wait.
This is
not her name, is it?
An elementary school principal, Tom Daniels, who is now Shannon.
Swampscott?
Oh, that's the state.
Okay.
Or the city.
Okay.
Swampscott is the city in which she lives. So Shannon is coming out as trans, as the principal of this school. And it's interesting because what's interesting about principals as they come out is there's no one in the school per se that can put the kibosh on that person's decision to come out because she's the principal.
Oh, I love this. An Irish... So she's now going by her middle name, Shannon.
Yep.
An Irish name meaning wise river. It is used by both males and females, perfectly denoting my fluid gender, Daniels wrote. He signed the letter Shannon Daniels.
How listen. That was a terrible Irish accent. Okay, let's try.
Let's not do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. So it's awesome that we've got more young. So wow. I just thought of this. Not only do we have young people coming out outside of the gender binary, but now we have principals who are also coming outside of the gender binary, which makes it more comfortable for young people to come out. I mean, if a young person is questioning their gender or they're clear about their gender and it doesn't fit in the scroll up like that, and it doesn't fit in the binary, and they see their principal who has come out as transgender, that makes the atmosphere in the school more comfortable for someone for a young person who's questioning their gender and wants to feel comfortable enough to come out. How cool is that? The timing of that is like uncanny.
Interesting that this article is written in a really very positive way about this whole situation.
Yes.
However, they do misgender Shannon through the whole process.
Yeah, they do actually.
But, no one's perfect.
Yeah, no one's perfect. So
again, the story is beautiful, and they present it in a positive way.
It is very beautiful and it's very positive, yes. Very positive, very awesome. Okay, the next one we're going to cover, we're not going to cover this one about the speech therapy, but we are going to cover this one right here. And I don't remember what it is, so let's just pull it up and see.
Surprise articles!
Oh, yes, this one. So, let's put it here so that we can...
Ooh, what? See what it reads, kids.
Let's put it here.
See, are there any comments? Jonathan says, Miss Swampscott. LOL, nice. I know a lady in Canada who would fit this story. Interesting, says Tamar.
Nice.
Jimmy says, the more that come out, the more opportunity trans-attracted people will have to openly be themselves as well. Here, and that's exactly the point.
That's what we're arguing. That's what we're advocating for, Jimmy, is the more society changes in this regard, the more of a comfortable space it is for guys like you and me to come out and own our trans attraction. And, this next article...
The more trans attracted come out and openly support, the more people will come out as trans, too.
That's right.
It's a cohesive little circle there.
That's right.
You know what I mean? You've got to both come out of your own closets to support each other openly in public.
That's right. That's right. And so...
And by you, I mean all of us.
All of us. And... helping all of us do that is the Human Rights Campaign. So the Human Rights Campaign, according to this article, has allocated $26 million to support transgender and LGBT candidates in the future. The future being this year and going forward. So there is...
And we've covered some possible candidates in our last...
We have.
So who knows?
Last week.
Who knows?
This article is saying that more dollars than ever have been allocated to support the record number of transgender election candidates. And this is why I say that Trump, at least for transgender people, has probably been the most supportive president of all time, because his negativity is triggering all of these transgender people aspiring to take office. And should they win, they will be able to change.
What a shift.
Oh my gosh, right.
What a shift.
Right.
What happened?
Exactly.
I'm so excited, actually, by that.
It is exciting.
It's a very exciting thought.
Yes. And bringing it back down to earth, when people like us and Jimmy and Jonathan, not Jonathan because he's taken and I'm married, but the point is, when trans-attracted men see transgender people in political office as leaders, brave, speaking out, being covered by TV and things like that, it gives them more room to be okay about themselves dating transgender people.
Absolutely.
They're coming out of the closet in a major way. And thanks to organizations like the Human Rights Campaign, they've got millions of dollars behind them to help them win these offices. Now, it's important to note that the trans women that we covered who won political office last year didn't have all this money behind them.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
So the chances of these people...
They did it on themselves.
Exactly.
Hey, Yuri.
Yuri, welcome to the show. So the chances of these people winning, given this war chest of funds behind them, is even greater. So I would suspect that this year we're going to see even more candidates who are transgender winning public office, and as a result of that, over the coming years, we're going to see legislation, at least in our country, shift. Sorry, Tamar, you're in Australia, so we don't know what's happening there. But at least here in the United States, we're seeing the foundation of really big change with political leaders, young people who are coming out, identifying as non-binary, their principals coming out, teachers coming out, fashion models coming out, actors coming out, producers making shows with exclusive transgender casts. There's all kinds of great things happening. All right, so now let's shift to the main event of our show, and we're going to wrap it up with this.
Bella says, stop shaming trans-attracted men. Love you guys. We love you too. And
Absolutely.
yes, stop shaming.
There's no reason to be shaming us, guys. Okay.
Nor to feel shame.
That's exactly right. So, men, you gotta love what you're getting. This sounds crazy, but
all of the things.
Yes. Let's say you're a trans-attracted man. I really wish that this one guy we're watching the show who's from the Brotherhood, who's having a really hard time finding a transgender partner. Maybe he'll watch it after the fact. But let's say you're out there trying to find a trans woman, and the trans woman that you meet, no matter how you meet that person, turns out to be someone that is not your optimal partner. Let's say she's doing sex work on the side, she's sleeping with other men and making money off of that activity.
And you're not down with that.
And you're not down with that. If that situation causes you to say something like, dang, all trans women are this way. I can never find a trans woman who is not a sex worker. Why is it that every time I go out and seek someone, I end up in this kind of relationship?
Where are you finding these girls?
You are not accepting the fact of your reality. The fact is, for whatever reason, that person who you are meeting is a match to your desires. They may not be a match to your current desires because your what is the past. So it's lagging behind your desires. So the people who show up in your current reality are a reflection of the things that you have asked for in the past, showing up in the present. So when you rail means when you argue or you resist what you have in front of you, you are setting the stage to receive in the future more of what you have in the present.
Say that again.
Yes.
In other words,
if you are negative about the partner you have, you are setting up the future to have more experiences with a partner like the one you're being negative about. Now, let's say, for example, you don't have a partner and you want a partner, whether you're a trans-attracted man or you're a trans woman. If you're without a partner and you're being negative about the fact that you don't have a partner, you're setting up the situation in the future for you to have more of an
negative experience
of not having a partner.
Mm-hmm.
So the way out of that trap, so to speak, is
meeting the wrong type of partner.
Or meeting the wrong type of partner, right. Right. So the way out of that trap is to appreciate what you have, to find aspects of what you have to appreciate. And I can guarantee that no matter what's happening in your now, there's something about it that you can appreciate. There are many times, for example, when I have negative feelings about my current relationship. And yet I also know that in the context of my current relationship, there are a lot of really positive things about my relationship. Mm-hmm. And so it's interesting when I wrote, you've got to love what you're getting. What I mean is you've got to appreciate what you have.
Right.
You've got to appreciate what you have.
What you have right here, right now in front of you.
Yes.
Being grateful for all things at all times.
Yes. Because when you appreciate what you have, you're setting up a future of receiving more things to appreciate. And you're setting up the future to have inside of it things that you don't have now, believe it or not. Because when you appreciate the things you have, the universe will say, will open up pathways for you to get other things that you've been wanting that you're not getting because you're focusing on the negative aspects of what you have, which is opening up pathways to get more of that.
Right. You keep focusing on what you're not getting. That's what you're going to keep getting.
Correct.
What you're focusing on. You're focusing... How was it put? If you look for trouble, you're going to find it.
Yes.
Everything that you believe is what exactly you're going to find.
Yes.
You're going to find trouble. You're going to find a problem. You're going to find no love. You're going to find no trans women. You're going to find trans women that only are sex workers. Whatever the story is.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. And so how do you do that? So let's say that you're with a trans woman who's a sex worker. And you don't like the fact that she's doing sex work. Well, if she's in survival sex...
Which there's nothing wrong if you are.
There is nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely not. No shame in that.
But if you as a trans-attracted man are not into that kind of thing, you don't want your partner to have that, you cannot change your partner's, this person that we're talking about. You cannot change her. You cannot get her to stop doing sex work. Because the more you push against the thing that you don't want her to do, the more she will dig her heels in doing the thing that you don't want her to do.
She has to make that choice upon herself.
That's right, Remy. So the solution is to appreciate aspects of her that you do like. So take your attention off of the sex work and focus on the other things.
All the other things.
And I can promise you there was something about that woman that you appreciated when you first met her before you found out she was doing sex work. She might have been just physically attractive. Maybe she was really confident. Maybe she drove a nice, this is kind of shallow, but maybe she drove a nice car.
That's where some people are.
Yeah, that's where some people are. And so there was something at the beginning that you found attractive about this person. If you focus on those aspects, or simply make things up about her that are positive, you will find your energy shift. And the energy shifting is an indication that you have shifted your reality so that more positive things can come your way. And now this is going to sound preposterous, but this is a definite possibility. If you maintain your positive focus on the aspects of her that are positive, it's quite possible she may give up sex work.
That is possible.
Yeah. She may one day be hanging out with her friends, and you have no knowledge of this. She may be out hanging out with her friends, and one of her friends might say, "Hey, I saw a help wanted sign at so-and-so, and maybe I think you might apply there. You might get that job." And so she might do what her friend suggested, and she might get that job, and that job might pay her so much money that she can stop doing sex work. You just never know how the universe is going to orchestrate things to give you what you want.
Right.
It could also be that this person decides, after you appreciating her consistently, that she doesn't want to be in a relationship with you. And we've talked about this before, where breakups in our culture are seen as negative. But in many cases, a breakup has to happen in order for the next person, the better person, to come into your life.
Yes.
And so it's possible.
Just talking to my girlfriend yesterday about something very similar to this whole situation.
And so it's possible that the trans woman you're with who's doing sex work might leave your life, and the next person that comes in is a better match to you. And so...
Someone who matches your story.
Yes, someone who matches
now the new story that you've grown into.
That's exactly right. So it's easier said than done, I will say that, to be continuously appreciative. And this is the practice. You're working to develop daily habits of appreciation where you are seeing the positive aspects of your life experience. And when you begin that practice, you begin to discover that there's a lot of things you can appreciate. They're actually, for everything that you can think of that's negative about your life, you can think of something positive about your life. And so, men, if you want that transgender partner that you're looking for, or whatever it is that you're looking for, happiness, a new job, or whatever, you have to learn to love what you've got. Because it's loving what you've got that gets you to the other things that you want. And your love of those other things doesn't necessarily mean that those things that you have that you're loving are going to stay. You're opening up pathways for the universe or your inner being to deliver to you the other things that you're wanting in your life when you're positive.
Gratitude shows an open space to receive new things.
Whoa. Say that again.
Gratitude opens up space to receive new things.
That's exactly right. Yeah. All right. I think that wraps the show up. Unless we have some comments from folks.
Last comments we got are from Jonathan saying where they can stop being so thirsty and work on themselves and truly examine what and who they want. And it's talking about trans attracted men. It's exactly right. You know, focus on the important things, not just the physical gratification of the moment.
Yeah.
And then your second comment, maybe they should also not focus so much on the sex. Exactly. There's so much more than that.
Who should not focus on the sex? The men? Or whoever.
Whoever.
Yeah, it's a good point. Whoever. Yeah. It's the focus on, that's so true. The focus on sex is such a focus. And there's so much more to a relationship than just the sex.
Absolutely.
I mean, I know relationships that exist where there's no sex at all and the people are pretty happy.
Yeah.
So, anyway, great show tonight. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We kind of been low-key tonight. Not really?
Great conversation?
Yeah, great conversation. Low-key. Great audience.
I don't know.
We'll see you guys next week.
He wasn't a million miles an hour and he's wearing a collared shirt. He feels...
Professorial.
Is that what it is?
I guess so. I'm trying to be calmer so that we can allow more room for conversation.
It's nice, isn't it?
It is nice.
All right.
All right,
Ciao.
guys. Bye, everybody.